Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Move to strike the last word. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the little known passages, sections that snuck into this bill is the very last one, which is section 70303, called restriction of funds. What it does is it makes it much, much more difficult for a judge to enforce a contempt order. Wonder why the Republicans are trying to do that. As two judges have threatened to hold the administration in contempt of court for defying court orders, now the Republicans, rather than encourage the President of the United States to follow the rule of law, to follow court orders, including a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, are actually trying to make it easier for the President to violate court orders and violate the law. And this is the Judiciary Committee. Most of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are lawyers themselves. Their entire careers have been around abiding by the rule of law. And now, rather than hold the President accountable, uphold our Constitution, uphold the fundamental rule of law that undergirds our entire system, no, they are trying to limit the ability of courts to enforce contempt orders. Now, contempt orders are just simply orders by a judge holding someone in contempt when they do not follow a court's order. So when, for example, the administration continues to fly people who have had no due process to a terror prison in El Salvador after a judge has said, don't fly anyone there, that's a violation of a court order. And if that judge wanted to enforce that order, he would hold the administration in contempt. And if they do not comply with that, there are escalating penalties, financial, even potentially jail. So that is what's going on right now. And the Kilmar Abregu Garcia case is the best example of this because the Supreme Court has ruled unanimously. And let's be real, this is not a 5-4 decision that is hyper-partisan. This is the 3 Republican justices that Donald Trump appointed to the Supreme Court, and 2 others who are so far to the right of them, they're off the reservation, agreeing that the administration violated due process and needs to facilitate the return of the person who was, they admit, mistakenly removed. What does Donald Trump say last night? I have the power to return him, but I am not going to. That is direct defiance of a Supreme Court order, a 9-0 Supreme Court order. And you would think that my congressional friends on the other side of the aisle who take an oath to uphold the Constitution, who understand that Marbury versus Madison establishes that it is the courts, not the president, who gets to interpret the laws. It is the courts, not the president, who gets to determine whether someone should be deported or not. You would think that they would say, let's make sure that our president is actually following court orders. Because if he's not following court orders, then why would anyone else follow court orders? And our entire system breaks down. That is clearly what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants to be a king who gets to make all of these decisions himself. He has already grabbed willingly all of Congress's power as a check and a balance on the executive branch. Now he's going after the courts. But instead of trying to uphold our system of checks and balances, my Republican colleagues want to make it easier for Donald Trump to disregard court orders. They are perfectly happy for Donald Trump to become a king, a dictator. And it is shameful that they put this clause in there to make it easier for him to defy court orders. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.